Next week I won't be here. Thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivaradari Gopi Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Sodana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasod Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Asatara Satyashri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai Mathura Dhama Ki Jai Navadvip Mayapur Dhama Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki Jai Ganga Maya Jamuna Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya. Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskachade Shatarane. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Sam Sajivam Sadvoitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Vanchakalpachubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvyeva Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So it's June 14th, 2026 in New Goloka, Hillsborough, North Carolina, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 74, Text 36. Yayatina samhi kulam Shaptam sadbir bahishkritam Vritapana ratam shashvat Sapayam katamarhati. Please chant. Yayati naisham hi kulam Shaptam sadbir bahishkritam Vritapana radham shasvat Saparyam katamarhati. Yayatina shin kulam Saptam sadbir bahishkritam Vritam pana ratam shasvat Saparyam katamarhati. Yajatina samhi kulam Shaptam sadbir bahishkritam Vritapana ritam shasvat Saparyam katamarhati. Yayatina Vayayati Esham there he, indeed, Kulam, dynasty, Shaptam, was cursed, Sadbhi, by well-behaved persons, Bahikritam, ostracize, Vrita, wantonly, Pana, to drinking, Ratam, addicted, Shasvat, always, Saparyam, worship, Katam, how, Arhati, does he deserve? So this is again Shishupal criticizing why Krishna was offered the first worship after it was completed. So he waited till it was done, and then he's criticizing. This is one of his criticisms. BBT translation, Yayati cursed the dynasty of these Yadavas, and ever since then, they've been ostracized by honest men and addicted to liquor. How then does Krishna deserve to be worshipped? In Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada does not, he skips this verse. This and the next verse he doesn't have in Krishna book. There's no, the purport in BBT is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti gives the inner meaning of the words of Shishupal to show how he continued unintentionally glorifying Lord Krishna and his Yadu dynasty. Quote, even though the Yadus were cursed by Ayati, they have been relieved bahishkritam of this curse by great saints, and consequently they have been raised to a position of royal sovereignty by such persons as Kartavirya. Thus they have become absorbed in Pana, protecting the earth. Considering all this, how does Krishna, the chief of the Yadus, deserve useless Vrita worship? Rather, he deserves opulent worship. Commentary of Srila Sanatana Goswami. In criticizing Krishna, he also criticizes all the Yadus in 2 verses, 36-37. Because the family was cursed by Ayati, they have been ostracized by the righteous. The real meaning is as follows. The family has delivered Bahishkritam from the curse by sacrifices performed by the great sages. The family is absorbed in protecting the earth, Panaratam. Therefore, why is worshipping the Yadus useless? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. The inner meaning of Shishupal's words shows how he is glorifying Krishna and his Yadu dynasty. The Yadu dynasty, quote, the Yadu dynasty was cursed by Ayati, but then reinstated by saintly persons. Therefore, Kartavirya, Arjuna, and others became emperors, unquote. Outer meaning, quote, the Yadus are addicted, ratam, to wantonly vrita, drinking pana, liquor, unquote. The inner meaning is, quote, as rulers, the Yadus have become absorbed in Pana, protecting the earth. Considering all this, how does Krishna, the chief of the Yadus, deserve useless Vrita worship? Rather, he deserves the most opulent worship. Yaya tinashinam yata samhikulam shaptam sadbir bahishkritam vittapana ratam sasvas sarpayam katam arhati. Yayati cursed the dynasty of these Yadavas, and ever since then they have been ostracized by honest men and addicted to liquor. How then does Krishna deserve to be worshipped? Well, how are we supposed to understand the scriptures? You know, we're reading the scriptures and trying to understand what do they mean and how to apply us. But here we have our acharyas are giving the opposite meaning to the normal meaning. They're saying, okay, this is a normal meaning, but there's also an absolutely opposite meaning. So what meaning are we supposed to take? This is very difficult. And it's very difficult if Sanskrit can be interpreted and translated in 2 completely opposite ways. How are we supposed to understand anything? How is some poor living entity like me, who's not some great acharya, how am I supposed to understand anything? And then, if our acharyas are correct, if Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Sanatana Goswami, which is echoed by Srila Jiva Goswami, if Shishupal is actually glorifying Krishna, then why was anybody upset with him? Why was everybody mad at him? Why did Krishna kill him? If actually this was glorification. So it's very confusing. So when we're trying to understand the scriptures, we're told to take the direct meaning, not the indirect meaning, with some exceptions. And scripture is full of hidden layers of meaning, some of which can be understood oppositely. And what we're supposed to do generally is take the meaning that is the most merciful, take the meaning that is the most kind, take the meaning that will bring us closer to Krishna. So there's a science of understanding scripture called hermeneutics. And some years ago, the GBC asked us on the Shastric Advisory Council to put together what is our Gaudiya Vaishnav understanding of hermeneutics. Actually, Bir Krishna Maharaj just contacted me yesterday and was saying how we really need to have people in our society understand this. The problem is it's not such a simple thing to understand. It's not the kind of thing you can explain in 5 minutes how to understand. And part of hermeneutics is you generally take the main meaning. Right? Such is true even in our ordinary dealings with people. We generally take the most obvious, most literal dictionary meaning. And the only time we're going to take a secondary meaning is if the main meaning doesn't make sense in that context. Of course, in this case, only the main meaning makes any sense in the context. The secondary meaning makes no sense in the context at all. Shishupal is not trying to glorify Krishna after the end of the first worship. He's trying to criticize him. Everybody's angry with him. Krishna kills him. And that's the meaning that makes sense. So very strange to look at a meaning that's not the main meaning and that's out of context. However, in poetry and narratives, it's more common to take a secondary meaning. So all of us are familiar with this principle in poetry, correct? That in poetry, there's all sorts of literary ornaments, and sometimes it's expected that we're going to look for hidden meanings. But the Vedic principles of hermeneutics is that both the primary and the secondary meanings can be taken if the purpose is to glorify Krishna. So the primary meaning can be taken to glorify Krishna, that the Yadus are cursed and that they're useless and they're all just drunkards, and so why should we worship Krishna? That primary meaning does glorify Krishna because it's part of the Leela. Otherwise, why is Krishna killing him? And he merges into the body of Krishna, and why, it doesn't, you have to have, in these Leelas, the bad guys have to be bad guys. We're not going to cheer for Nrsimhadev killing Hiranyakashipu if Hiranyakashipu is not a bad guy. In any drama, even mundane drama, if they want the audience to be rooting for the good guys and happy when the bad guys get killed, they have to show that the bad guys are bad guys. Otherwise, why are you going, you don't want sympathy. One of our problems with the Mahabharata is Karna is kind of a sympathetic figure. And isn't it? And don't we feel sort of mixed feelings when Karna dies? We're not just cheering. We're kind of like, oh, this was really sad that Karna dies. And we see that throughout the scriptures, that Krishna and the devotees, they try to actually push the bad guys, the villains, to demonstrate their bad qualities. Like Narada pushing Kamsa. Any child might be Krishna. So Kamsa starts going around killing all these innocent babies, just so that the citizens can see this is a villain. And so when Krishna kills him, people aren't going to say, well, why are you killing the king? With Duryodhana and Dushasana, what was the event that really showed this to the public? What was that event? The disrobing of Draupadi. It was very public. That it's such a thing to try to take off the clothes of a woman, any woman in public, what to speak of a high-class queen who's your family member. This is horrible. And no matter what other good qualities, Duryodhana had good qualities, no matter what other good qualities he had, Dushasana had, people would say, we don't want some king who's going to treat women like this. He deserves to be killed. So bringing out those bad qualities is necessary. And therefore, to take these verses literally is also necessary. And we don't take, like I always give the example, actually, when we teach hermeneutics, that Kamsa says in the wrestling arena right before he's killed, after the wrestlers are killed, he says that arrest Vasudeva and Devaki again, because they had been let go, he said arrest them again, and arrest Krishna and Balaram, take away all of their jewels, take away all their paraphernalia, and throw them out of the city. And I say, we don't look at the Shastra and take this as a Shastric injunction for us. Not all of the statements of the Shastra are meant to be injunctions for us. We're not going to take away Radha Golokananda's jewels and throw them out of Hillsborough because this is a statement in the Shastra, but rather we understand this statement in the Shastra is spoken by a demon so we can understand that he's a demon. Particularly these statements Prabhupada said you can't tell a fool is a fool until they open their mouth and speak, if they're very well dressed. And many times villains not only dress nicely but present themselves nicely, and there has to be some evidence. At the same time, our acharyas don't really like hearing blasphemy of Krishna, and we're not supposed to hear blasphemy of Krishna. So this is kind of a conundrum, because you have to hear the demons' blasphemy of Krishna to understand that they're demons. And at the same time, we're not supposed to hear any blasphemy of Krishna. So this is a difficult thing. And the point is, though, that Scripture is full of hidden meaning. I think all of us experience this as we read the Scripture repeatedly. You'll read the scripture, you'll find, oh, there's this additional, everybody has this experience. You know, you've read a verse of purport 10, 20, 30 times, and you read it again, and you're like, oh, I didn't know this was there. Wow, this is amazing. Oh, and it speaks to you in another way. It speaks to you in a different way. You get, there's layers, and that goes on forever. That goes on forever. So I wanted to look at the here what was, especially this panaratam. So it really struck me, that panaratam, how could we take this meaning, which pana usually means drinking, and rata means addicted, so addicted to drinking. So addicted to drinking implies that you're drinking an intoxicant. I don't think there'd be a criticism, you're addicted to drinking orange juice or water or something like that. So it's implied, just like we say, don't drink and drive. Many years ago when I used to run a school here, one of the parents came to me and said that while he was driving, he was drinking a glass of water, and his 6-year-old child said, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, don't drink and drive." So when we say don't drink and drive, the implication is don't drink liquor. So here, pana means generally to drink. It doesn't mean drinking alcohol, it means drinking anything. But the ratam after it as a criticism. So when I looked up how the word pana is used in Shastra, it's always used to mean drinking. So I thought, how did Srila Sanatana Goswami, echoed by Srila Rupa Goswami, and Srila Vishwanath Thakur, take pana meaning to protect? Now, the Sanskrit goes to root words, to the dhatu, and there's 2 possible root words here. When we look at pa, not pa, but pa, it can mean to drink or to protect. Like we have the word pati, meaning husband. I mean, even in English, we can use the word husband not in the legal sense of a spouse, but in terms of protecting. Like you can husband the property, you can husband the flock of sheep. So pa means to protect. And therefore, he can understand pana means to protect. So instead of being panaratam, they're addicted to drinking, it can mean engaged in protection. They're always protecting. So that's, again, not the ordinary way that pana is understood, but they're saying, well, the root of pa can be to protect. I thought I'd look at some really sweet, charming examples of when Krishna and his associates use language in various ways. Of course, we have the example given in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of glorification of Krishna's qualities and how he used the words vasa in different ways. So vasa generally means clothing. Of the 16 upachars in the deity worship, idam vasanam means now, Krishna, you take your clothing. And one time Srimati Radharani was waiting for Krishna. He didn't show up. He does this, you know. Actually, there is one couple that's talking to me about some young man they're considering for their daughter. Actually, their daughter's in love with this young man, and they're trying to convince her not to marry him. Anyway, one of their arguments for trying to convince her not to marry him is that he was late. That he was supposed to call, he was supposed to meet, and he was late, that he's not responsible. So I didn't tell them that Krishna is often late in his dealings with the gopis, that he often promises the gopis, I'll be there at this time, and then he's off with another girl, and then when he shows up, he says, oh, my mother had me go to a festival or something. You know, he makes up some excuse. So anyway, Krishna was supposed to meet Srimati Radharani in the evening, and he didn't show up. She's waiting and waiting, and he comes in the morning. And when he comes, he doesn't have all of his clothes. Most likely it was like his chadar or something that he didn't have. We find a number of leelas, right, where our acharyas explain how, like, Krishna and Radharani, after their night pastimes, they're running back home so they won't be discovered, and they accidentally take each other's cloths. right? So then when they get home, it's like, well, wait a minute, that's not your clothing, each in their respective homes. So Krishna must have lost his cloth. And so Srimati Radharani says, where are your clothes? Where are your vasa? Where's your vasa? And then Krishna turns it to mean residence. Vasa can also mean residence. And he says, oh, my dear beloved, my vasa is in your beautiful eyes. My residence is in your eyes. And she's like, I didn't mean your residence. I meant your clothes. And then he takes another meaning of vasa, meaning fragrance. And he says, I have this vasa because I'm standing next to you, so I'm having your fragrance. And then she gets completely frustrated with this line of discussion. And then she says, where were you all night? Where were you all night? And he takes the Sanskrit and changes it's called the sandhi. This is not a sense of the root, but the sandhi. And he says, how could night have kidnapped me? And at this point, she's laughing so much that she's not angry at him anymore. So we have, Krishna does this. I wanted to look at in Ujjwala Nilamani. This is actually a section I was just happened to be reading. And this is a section about, it's in the different groups of gopis. And if we take Srimati Radharani's group as the main group, then we have three other groups in relation to her. So there's Radharani's groups of her own friends. Then there's friendly groups like Shamala. Shamala is a leader of another group. She's not in Radharani's group, but they're friendly. Then we have groups headed by persons like Bhadra, who are neutral, neither friendly nor unfriendly to Srimati Radharani, and groups like Chandravali's that are unfriendly to Radharani. Of course, if we took Chandravali's group as the main group, then the definitions would go in the opposite direction. And so these unfriendly groups, they're sometimes critical of one another. And they're sometimes saying, well, Krishna doesn't like your group, he likes our group better. And of course, Krishna enjoys this competition. Like the cowherd boys are always trying to touch Krishna first, they're competing like that. Prabhupada says competition gives life. This is a loving competition. In this world, competition can become envious and malicious. Yeah? I mean, sometimes even in sporting events, there's two, soccer teams or cricket teams or football, whatever. And, it's supposed to be a sporting competition, but sometimes people actually get angry and start beating each other up on the opposite team. So it's not quite like that. So this is from chapter 9, verse 35 from Ujjwala Nilamani. This is gopis talking to each other. My dear Bhavya, your friend Sodamani is decorated with ornaments presented to her by Govinda. She becomes very happy when she is separated from him. She is very expert in the arts. Her body displays the intense beauty of youthfulness. Her actions contain the highest good conduct. Her good fortune will never end. So this is it's praise, yes? So there's one gopi speaking to a rival gopi, a gopi in the rival party, and sounds like she's glorifying her. But the second meaning is, your friend's ornaments are disliked by Krishna. He enjoys with other women when he's not in her presence. She is expert at quarreling and radiates the beauty of an iron hammer. Her low actions give pain to the good people. She never ceases to have misfortune. So another meaning of the same Sanskrit is an insult. Here's another example. This is also chapter 9, verse 36. First meaning, your friend Kailavati produces pleasure and joy for the eyes of all people by her dancing. Her necklace becomes stunned by those extraordinary movements. By the power of teaching, she defeats waves of beauty arriving from yellow haritala ointment. She dances with special steps. So again, it sounds like she's glorifying her. But the second meaning is, your friend destroys joy in the eyes of all people by her dancing. Her necklace becomes displaced by her awkward movements. By her fickle nature, she drives away the waves of beauty derived from Krishna's keeping the rhythm. She dances with deviation from rasa. So one thing about having these different meanings is you have what we call plausible deniability. If someone says, why are you insulting my friend? Oh, no, I didn't insult your friend. Just see, I was glorifying your friend. But actually, it's an insult. We even have words like that in English, like a left-handed compliment, right? Or he praises with faint blame, so it sounds like praise, but it's actually blame. Winston Churchill was expert at those kind of things. So what are we supposed to do when we're reading the Shastra? One hermeneutic principle we talked about is to generally take the direct meaning. Another one is to take the meaning that is most merciful, that is most going to help people. How can we understand the statements of Shastra? How can we understand the statements of Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas so that they will benefit the greatest number of people? We don't want to use their Shastra and Shastra, their one meaning is weapon. We're not trying to use the Shastra as a weapon, as a Shastra, to hurt people. Religious people do this sometimes. They take quotes, irregardless of the religion. They take quotes from their scripture in order to say that they're better than other people, in order to criticize other people, in order to make other people feel bad, in order to justify torture and persecution and killing of other people. So we should take the statements of the Shastra in the way that it will benefit the greatest number of people, in the kindest way, but without compromising other statements of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, or other principles of hermeneutics. So in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.27, when Srila Rupa Goswami is describing that bhakti is all auspicious, he says, the wise explain there are 4 types of auspiciousness: subha, affection for all living entities, being attractive to all living entities, possession of good qualities, and happiness, as well as other items. And Srila Jiva Goswami says, affection for the world means that they work for the world benefit. The whole world is also attracted to this person who works for the benefit of all living beings. So we want to take the instructions of Shastra, the words of Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj and I were talking about this yesterday in terms of hermeneutics. How do we understand Srila Prabhupada's statements that are sometimes maybe difficult to understand, difficult to apply, in a way that is beneficial, that is merciful to everyone? So one way we do this, which is kind of like what our acharyas are doing here, is to see the good in everyone, to see at least the potential good in everyone. So our acharyas, they want to relish the leelas of the Bhagavatam. They want to enjoy Shishupal being killed, which means they have to see him as a villain. So they have to see the demons as acting demoniacally, but they don't want to hear blasphemy of Krishna, and they also want to see the good in everyone, even in Shishupal. So I thought I'd refer to something very interesting, also by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in reference to Daksha and Lord Shiva. So we all know that Daksha had a daughter that married Lord Shiva, Sati, and that therefore Lord Shiva was his son-in-law, and that therefore socially Lord Shiva was in a subordinate position to him. Although Lord Shiva is the son of Lord Brahma, and Daksha is the son of Lord Brahma, still, because Lord Shiva was his son-in-law, he was socially inferior, and therefore it's expected that when Daksha entered the assembly, that his son-in-law would stand up and receive him. In America, we don't so much take those sort of things into account. It must be very awkward for people from India to be in America where people don't observe these sort of etiquette according to social hierarchy. It must feel very awkward a lot of times. I know it feels awkward to me when I go to India and people are observing these. And it's like, why are they behaving like this? It feels uncomfortable. But we find this, Daksha expected this, and when he didn't get it, he became very offended. He became very insulted. And of course, Lord Shiva didn't stand up because Lord Shiva was absorbed in meditation and he was just seeing Krishna everywhere. And actually, Lord Shiva was just seeing that Krishna is in the heart of everyone, including Daksha. So in his commentary to Bhagavatam 4.4.12, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about 4 categories of the way we should behave, with increasing, good, better, better, best, and then 4 categories of the way we shouldn't behave in terms of seeing the good and bad in others, bad, worse, worse, and worst. So the good person sees others' faults as being capable of being transformed into good qualities. They see the faults, but they say this fault is a good quality misused. And he gives an example. Speaking harshly is a bad quality, but because it can be for someone's benefit, it becomes a good quality, like neem juice, which cures sickness, although it is bitter. So they see at the bottom level of a good person, they see, oh, okay, this person has the fault, but the fault could be used for a good purpose. Could be used for a good purpose. Has some benefit. Okay, the next level of good person, in terms of seeing others' faults, is the Mahattara. They overlook the faults and they see the good. Now, all of us practice doing this with people that we live with or people we interact with regularly. Otherwise, we couldn't live with them, because everybody has faults. So when I'm living with people or interacting with them regularly, in order to get along with them and be sane, I'm going to overlook or excuse their faults and focus on the good. Am I correct? Do we all do that? Otherwise, it's intolerable, right? So an example, seeing a merchant, though a materialist, they conclude he takes care of guests nicely and is worthy of deliverance. Okay, yes, he's a materialistic person, but look how nicely he takes care of the guests. Again, we all do that. We all do that. And my husband throws his dirty socks on the floor, but he takes care of the children nicely. I had someone say this to me the other day. Well, on the days that my husband watches the children, you know, they get to bed late, their wet towels aren't hung up properly, and they don't put their dishes in the sink, but the kids have a great time with him. And it gives me a chance to do other things I need to do. So I'm grateful, even though I have to clean up after him when I get back. So this is, you see the faults, but you overlook them. You overlook them and you focus on the good. The next level of good person is Mahattama. They magnify the good qualities and they just don't see the faults at all. So example, this person has stolen my cloth because he's cold. And although he has a weapon, he does not attack me because he is merciful. Therefore, he is virtuous. So someone takes out a weapon and steals your clothes and you're saying, but he didn't attack me with the weapon. And he was cold. That's why he took the cloth. So they just don't see the faults at all. They see only good. And the top good person, the Ati Mahattama, they see good qualities where there aren't any. An example, in this world there are no bad people. Everyone is good. Now, by the way, you can't practically function in the world like that, can you? Therefore, we say the Uttama Bhakta acts on the level of the Majjhima Bhakta. But the highest thing is everyone's good. Everyone's a soul. Everyone's a soul. Everyone's acting according to the will of the Lord. Everyone is properly situated. Everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing. There's nothing wrong in the world. Everything is perfect. Okay, so the ways that we should behave, at the very least, we should see people's faults as potential good qualities. At the very least. Because, my dear friends, that is a fact. All faults are simply good qualities misused. What's the difference between running in front of bullets to save your fallen comrade and running in front of a car in the highway? In both cases, you're risking your life in a dangerous situation. But one, you're doing it for arrogance, and one, you're doing it to save others. But the action is not different. So if people are inclined to do stupid risk-taking behavior, you could say, why don't you be willing to risk yourself for a good cause? So at least we should do that. See other people's faults as potential good qualities. And as I say, generally in our life, to overlook the faults and focus on the good qualities. All right, what are the bad persons who are like what Daksha was doing? So asadu, they see others' good qualities as being capable of being transformed into faults. An example, oh, you want to help others? Oh, you must be greedy for their assets. You must be motivated. All this helping you're doing, you must have a selfish motive. Okay? That's the lowest level of a bad person, that they see the good qualities as potential faults. The next worst level of a bad person is a saduttara. They overlook the good in others, but only sees the faults. This is what happens before people get divorced. Right? They start focusing on the faults, and they excuse or ignore the good qualities. Example, this person has renounced, but he also eats a lot. Who did that? Ramchandra Puri, right? The sannyasi eats ghee rice to fill his stomach. He's lusty and he should be considered fallen. And again, this is what happens before a divorce. Well, yeah, okay, you may be watching the kids all day so I can go do what I want, but you put them to bed late and you leave a mess in the sink and you leave their wet towels all over the floor. What useless person are you? The next worst level of a bad person, a saduttama, magnifies small faults and sees no good. Example, this renunciate has given up the forest and lives in the house of a married man. He only wants to steal their money. I've heard such kind of things in our Hare Krishna movement. I actually heard these kind of things. Oh, why is the sannyasi visiting all the homes of the householders and collecting donations? What useless sannyasi. So this is the third worst category. And the worst category is ati asuratama. They see only faults in others where there are none. So everyone in this world is evil. No one's good. Everyone's bad. Everyone's terrible. I'm not going to trust anybody. So our acharyas, when they're looking at Shishupal, they're turning his faults into good qualities. They're switching the faults into good qualities because they are uttama adhikaris, they're mahatmas, and because they don't want to hear any blasphemy of the Lord. Generally, we should take the most literal understanding of Shastra, while at the same time, we can relish the inner hidden meanings. We do both, and we should strive to see the good in others. That everyone is a soul, and everyone has the potential for love of God. Even the most wicked, the most evil, the most fallen person, they're ultimately a soul with the potential for love of God. We may not want to live in the same house with them. We may even want them to be in prison if they're really evil. But we still see them as a soul with the potential for love of God. So thank you very much. Anybody have questions, comments, additions, subtractions, corrections? Well, you take both. The literal meaning is the main meaning intended by, what did Shishupal intend? He intended the literal meaning. And without taking the literal meaning, the Leela doesn't make any sense. So the literal meaning is actually contributing to the Leela and contributing to Krishna's glorification. It's contributing to the whole Leela. So we primarily take the literal meaning. But because we don't want to hear blasphemy, we also like to understand the other meaning. That pacifies our mind so that we don't have to sit in the Bhagavatam class just meditating on blasphemy of the Lord. Well, let me come to Bhagavatam class and meditate on how the Lord is being blasphemed is a little awkward. So we also want to, because we're supposed to leave, right? If the Lord is being blasphemed, you're supposed to leave. So then as soon as we hear this verse, everybody should run out of the temple room as fast as they can. So therefore, we also take the other meaning so that we can be pacified. And so we can see that Shishupal is also ultimately a soul. Do they always have to explain the two things? No. No. But the literal meaning definitely always has to be explained. Does the hidden meaning always have to be explained? No. But the literal meaning always has to be explained. Otherwise, the purpose and the flow and the context of the Leela, the mood of the Leela, is going to be disturbed. Exactly. So, yes. So you take, the literal meaning is primary, but we can also relish the other. But no, we don't always have to explain the second. And I'm sure there's many more unlimited more meanings that we could get out of this. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Without understanding how evil the villain is, Krishna is not properly glorified. And it would be actually awful if Krishna is killing someone who's glorifying him. That wouldn't be very, oh, you're glorifying me? Cut off your head.
Indra's case, everybody, he's just doing crazy things. But Krishna says, no, he's actually made all my devotees, my lovers to be with me together, no shame. This is wonderful. He's a great devotee. So we have to see all
Yes.
things to have.
Yes, that although Indra is trying to destroy Vrindavan, he's also bringing all the devotees together. So thank you very much. Anything valuable here is from Srila Prabhupada, our acharyas. Anything wrong here is my fault. Please take the good and leave aside the bad. Please don't just focus on my faults, then we'll be in trouble. 36. And you're giving, I assume you're giving class tomorrow.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Maravindanalayatacham Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Asa Sakalem Priya Priti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala
Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahavan Keshi Gata Vamsi Vata Vadashakana Yata Vamsi Vata Vadashakana Jasabalila Koilo Sri Nandananda Shri Nanda Jasoda Jaya Jaya Gopagan Jaya Shri Damadi Jaya Jaya Dainu Vatsagan Jaya Dainu Jaya Prishabhanu Jaya Kirti Dasundari Rishabhanu Jaya Kirti Dasundari Jaya Purnamasi Jaya Virnagari Purnamasi Jaya Jaya Gopishwara Vrindavanamaj Jaya Gopishwara Vrindavanamaj Jaya 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 Krishna Saka Bhatu Dvijarat Jaya Rama Gata Jaya Rohini Nandan Rohini Nandan Jaya Jaya Vrindavana Basi Jata Jan Jaya Dvija Patni Jaya Naga Kanyagan Dvija Patni Jaya Bhakti Tejahara Pailo Govinda Charan Shri Rasa Mandala Jaya Jaya Radha Shyam. Jaya Jaya Rasa Leela Sarvamanaram. Jaya Jaya Jwala Rasa Sarva Rasa Sar. Parakiya Bhaveja Brajate Prachar. Shri Janavapada Padma Koriya Smaran. Koriya Smaran. Dina Krishna Dasa Koe Nama Sankirtan. Krishna Dasa Sankirtan. Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavan. Jaya Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavan. Shri Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohan. Jaya Jaya Radha Goloka Nanda. Jaya Radhe Shyam. Jaya Radha Goloka Nanda. Jaya Radhe Shyam. Jaya Radhe Jaya Radha Goloka Nanda. Jaya Radhe Shyam. Radha Goloka Nanda. Jaya Radha Goloka Nanda. Giri Govardhan. Radha Goloka Nanda. Jaya Giri. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. All glories to Radha Krishna and the divine forest of Vrindavan. All glories to the three presiding deities of Vrindavan, Sri Govinda Gopinath and Madana Mohan. All glories to Shamakunda, Radhakunda, Girdhan Hill, and the Jamuna River, Kalindi. All glories to the great forest known as Mahavan. All glories to Keshigata, the Vamsivata tree, and the 12 forests of Vraja. At these places, the son of Nanda, Sri Krishna, performed in all his pastime. All glories to Krishna's divine father and mother, Nanda and Jasoda. All glories to the cowherd boys, headed by Sridham. All glories to the cows and calves of Vraja. All glories to Radha's divine father and mother, Vrishabhanu and the beautiful Kirtida. All glories to Purnamasi, the mother of Sandapuni Muni. All glories to the young cowherd maidens of Vraja. All glories to Gopishwar Shiva, who resides in Vrindavan in order to protect the holy Dham. All glories to Krishna's funny Brahmana friend, Madhu Mangala. All glories to Ramagat, where Lord Balaram performed his rasa dance. All glories to Lord Balaram, the son of Rohini. All glories to all of the residents of Vrindavan. All glories to the wives of the proud Vedic Brahmanas. All glories to the wives of the Kaliya serpent. Through pure devotion, they all obtained the lotus feet of Lord Govinda. All glories to the place where the rasa dance of Sri Krishna was performed. All glories to Radha and Shyam. All glories to the divine rasa dance, which is the most beautiful of all Lord Krishna's pastimes. All glories to the mellow of conjugal love, which is the most excellent of all rasas and is propagated in Vraja by Sri Krishna in the form of the divine Parakiya Bhava. Remembering the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda's consort, Sri Janava Devi, this very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna sing. You can't give a holy name. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai. Cheto Darpanam Arjanam Baba Mahadavagni Nivapanam Shreya Karaiva Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Bhuni Vardhanam Kritipadam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Puram Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bhaudani Sarva Shaktis Satrarpitani Amitas Vinena Kala Etadrishi Tavakiva Bhagavan Mamapi